Welcome to this edition of Cup Chat with Birding with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. Today we are excited to welcome birding buddy Miss Barbara to share her birding experiences with you so you can meet her in case you see her on one of our upcoming Birding with Extension programs.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Welcome to Cup Chat. I am Dr. Maureen Frank, and Emily Grant is not with us this morning still. She might make an appearance at some point, but she is in stock show up to her eyeballs. So we will see what happens. But joining me today is Barbara Pankratz, and Barbara is going to be our birding buddy for Birding the Hill Country. And will be the first time that we have her on as an official birding buddy on one of our events. And so we wanted to highlight her because we've always highlighted our guides and our birding buddies in the past because they're very special to us. And once you've been a guide or a birding buddy for us, you are part of the Birding with Extension team. So Barbara, I hope you knew that you were making a lifelong commitment
All right.
to this team. But Barbara, you are joining us for Birding the Hill Country because you are in the Hill Country. And so if you'll tell us a little bit about how long you've lived where you live and been birding in the Hill Country, and also just how did you get started birding?
Well, I've lived here all my life. I was born in Kerrville because Comfort didn't have a hospital, but I live in Comfort and have been here forever, except for times as an adult when I went out and lived in other towns, but I came back. And so I have been here forever and grew up. We lived in this really awesome house on Cypress Creek, right in town, right outside the historic district of town. And we'd hear the owls, the barred owls at night, the great horn. One of my favorites was we had a ligustrum tree in our front yard, and the cedar waxwings would come in just in hordes, and they would eat all those berries and then get kind of drunk. And they were kind of fun to watch. And hummingbirds. Those are my first three birds that I really think about that really connected. So my mom was great. She taught this kind of stuff forever. Just our life was outdoors and doing neat things. Did everything from birds to geology to rocks and trees and plants. So we had a really good background. But I think there's a difference between being a bird watcher and a birder. And for most of my life, I was just a bird watcher until about the last 25 years. And then I got a little more serious. So, but I've lived here forever. So, it's always been home base. So very familiar. And I still do most of my birding in this area. Hi, Emily.
Emily joined at the right time. We're talking about drunk birds. So
drunk birds?
Oh, you missed that part. Okay, yeah.
Good morning.
Morning. Hi.
So what are y'all talking about?
No, really, drunk birds. When cedar waxwings eat ligustrum berries and get, just a little tipsy. And Barbara got to watch them in her yard growing up.
Well, heck, y'all didn't even need me on this morning to have a good time talking about drunk birds.
But what kind of good time are you having there at the stock show?
Well, as always, I love to wake up at 7 a.m. Well, no, 4:30. I'm walking outside. The announcer is really loud. As you know, I love to wake up super early in the mornings. And so for the past 10 days or so, I have been up rolling at 4:30 to make a 7 a.m. show start. And so I would like to go birding because we at least get to sleep till 5.
And now today it's cold, which is not your favorite thing either. So
no, it is not my favorite thing at all. So it's a struggle bus, but it's been good. I shared the other day about my kiddos and I'm enjoying what this part of my job, which is a little bit different from what everybody on here knows that I do, but I do enjoy this part except for the early morning, so it's been fun. But anyways, we can get back to Cup Chat. Less about me, more about Barbara today.
Oh, that's just fine. Actually, so this is a good time for you to come on, Emily, because I want everybody to see Barbara's mug. And Emily, this mug is so cool. And it also inspired me for an idea that we're going to make millions of dollars off of.
millions. I'm ready. That means we can retire.
Exactly. Look how cute that is.
The three iconic hill country birds.
It's
that is
perfect.
so cool.
It's so perfect. So here's my idea. If anybody out here knows how to make this happen, you can join in on this $1 million endeavor. How cool would it be, Emily? You know how we the one year we had the silhouette cups that it changes from the silhouette of the bird to the color. But it made me with Barbara's like really good species here. Barbara, hold it up again. How cool would it be if they changed from the male to female plumage? So you could like really study. You'd be like, oh, it's the male black-capped vireo as a female black-capped vireo. On the painted bunting, go.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
Yellow, like that might be a little.
Yes, we would make millions.
We would make millions if we could figure out how to make that ink technology on the ceramic work. We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyhow, isn't that such a cool mug? I have my owl mug this morning. Emily, I don't know if you had seen this yet because I think it was just me and Brian.
I have my Yeti travel mug because that's all I can do at this point in the day.
Yeah, you are traveling. Well, so Barbara, what we want to talk about next is that our Birding in the Hill Country event is full. But you've lived in the Hill Country your whole life. Can you share some of your favorite public access places to go birding in the Hill Country in the spring? So if somebody's not getting to come out with us, but they want to come to the Hill Country area, where would you tell them to go?
Well, a few of the places we're going are going to be public access, right? I mean, like
we are going to
South Lano River.
South Lano River. Yes, thank you. Yes, that's I think our main public access place because we've got 3 private ranches and the state park.
And are we going to Old Tunnel State Park?
Yes, that's
okay.
Hopefully they're going to keep us posted because we're going to be a little early for the bats and we're mainly going for the bats. So I've been talking to the biologists and they're going to let us know how the bat situation looks, but we'll probably go anyway. We may eat dinner out there anyhow and then go see what birds are hanging out because it's a great spot to go birding too. But sorry, go ahead. Your favorite?
That's one of my favorites. Like we go out there. Okay. Patty Leslie is my cousin, and so we have this cousins birding, and we meet out there. This whole group of cousins, and we meet at the Old Tunnel and do a survey. But that's also a really good spot for golden cheek warblers. So when that's a good option to go to see those. But that's one of my favorites. James Keel Riverbend Park, which is in Comfort. These are mostly, I'm going to tell you about Kendall County mostly, because that's where I live. And James Keel Riverbend Park is a really cool little small park, but it gets a lot of species in, and it's real close here. It's out, a few miles out down the road. And we really enjoyed that. We get a lot of warblers in the spring, and right now we've got the golden crown kinglets. Last year we had nuthatches at this time of year, but spring will be it's always really good out there. I like the Old Tunnel. Like I said, Joshua Springs is another park right there off of Interstate 10. Very good birding. It's got all kinds of terrain. That's where I go when I've got to get ready for Big Bend, because it's got lots of hills. So I go out and I hike those hills, and that helps me get ready for that. Not as much as I need, but it does help. But it's very birdy out there. And Guadalupe River State Park is really close to us too. So we go over there, and it's part in Kendall and part in Comal. And of course in Bernie, there's the big Cibolo Nature Center. And it's our hottest hotspot in this county. And Bernie Lake has good waterfowl. And in Comfort, if you contact me ahead of time, I can get you into our water treatment plant. Ooh, lovely place. Ooh. I might even take you to the cemetery after that. or the dump, But it's probably got the best water fowl sites. It is probably the best in the county. But we have
that's often so true about water treatment plants can be a great place to go. That was my face was not ooh the water treatment plant. It was ooh hot tip from Barbara that she can get you into cool places such as the water treatment plant. When I lived in Logan, Utah, for one, we got to see tons of cedar waxwings, just like you're talking about. And that was my favorite, was like you'd walk across campus and the trees were like dripping with cedar waxwings. But also the water treatment ponds there were fantastic for birding. So yeah, I don't know. That's one of the funny things about birders is we love water treatment plants, cemeteries, and dumps, probably more than most people do. So.
Yes. Romantic bunch, aren't we?
You know, and can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry, I have relocated to the inside of a trailer because it is cold and then the barn is really loud. So sorry for my relocation status. But, you know, I think about, as we're talking about birding the hill country, one thing we have to kind of remember and share with listeners, if they're coming to the hill country, it's a much different place than a lot of places in Texas. In terms of the roads, a lot of times these properties, your county roads and things connect through people's property. And so you might be thinking you are on a road. And so there's a new campaign called Love Fredericksburg. And Maureen, I'm obviously in a trailer, so I'm going to let you Google that up and share that link onto the comments. But, you know, as you go to different places, and especially Texas or the hill country is even different than those areas in Texas, but out of state visitors, remember that Texas is 98% private lands. And so, especially in the hill country, we see our county roads really cut through some properties. And it can be even confusing for me, who's now moved to the area, but from where I was originally from, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there were fences everywhere and gates. And so when you were on private property, you kind of knew it. And there are definitely times in the hill country that you can get off on private property and not know that. So just to kind of be aware as you are out in the hill country that a lot of times, even though those county roads are cutting through places and there are no fences, you are on somebody's property.
Right. Yeah, we had a lot of open range. Growing up, there was a lot of open range with no fences. Now there's a whole lot more fences as the people move in. But yeah, you just have to you can get out of the car and on the road, but don't get out and start walking across the property. It's not, just because there's not a fence doesn't mean you can go there.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thanks, Emily. I hadn't heard about that, but I pulled up this link, and so I will. Whoever put this together did a very nice job with their graphics and things. So I'll definitely link this when we're done, because I'm not as skilled at Emily as like linking while we talk. So, but when we're finished, I'll put it on the Facebook page. So,
and I just think Fredericksburg is even more of a unique. The hill country area is even more of a unique area in terms of worrying about public and private lands versus the majority of the state that I've traveled in. There's just a lot of county roads that are paved. You know, they've done a wonderful job of paving a lot of roads, but it can get confusing as to where you're at.
Yeah, it's just so different. A lot of the areas that I've birded in North Texas and West Texas, they say they're county roads, but they're not paved. I mean, they are county roads. But this area of the hill country paves most of their roads. Everything's pretty much paved. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. It is good. It's just confusing to know where you're at.
Right.
That is a good point. All right. So, Barbara, the next thing I want to talk about is we always make sure, whether we're leading a beginner trip or not, one of the things that we like to do with Birding with Extension is make sure that we are friendly to all levels of birders, whether you're a beginner birder or advanced. And so that means that we like for all of our guides and buddies to, you know, be good with working with beginners. So Barbara, what I wanted to ask you is just share with us a tip that you have for beginning birders, for somebody who's starting out.
Well, when I'm out with a group, like I've been recently, I was out and down Laredo, I told them I will call out every bird, house finch, house sparrow, whatever that I see, because someone's going to want that bird. They may be doing county listing, they may do whatever, but I've been in groups where the guides don't call out all the birds, and I just want to see them. I just want to see every bird I can possibly see. So I try to do that to help those who aren't as familiar or don't see them. I know a lot of beginning birders have a hard time getting on the birds. And so it's real important to really, you know, say there's that over there, and, you know, look in this tree, 3 o'clock, whatever, you know, you try to get them on it because it's really hard. And so every time I do that, it's like practice for both of us, for me telling you how to get on the bird and for the person to be looking for a bird, even if it's just a house sparrow. So that's a good thing. I think beginners need to spend a lot of time just out, looking them up, and getting used to eBird so they know that how they can find birds and what's going to be in the area. You don't want to go to an area that you're looking for a bat falcon and there's no bat falcons there, you know. So you just need to kind of be familiar with that. So just take some time, but the main thing is just get out and bird and do the whole thing. Don't just look at birds. This is not the birding side of me. Look at wildflowers, look at plants, look at trees, look at the clouds, look at the geology, just get out and kind of take in the whole thing. That's what I like to do. So for birding, beginning birders, just take in the whole thing and don't stress yourself. Don't try to see too much too fast. That's, like you were talking a while ago about going someplace where there's a lot of birds. Like if you go to the valley, if you're a beginning birder and you go to the valley and you get 118 species in one day, that's overwhelming. So try to keep a level of sanity on your birding,
Yeah, Barbara and I were talking about before we jumped on, the difference when we did Learn to Bird 2 years ago and we were in Valverde, there was not an overwhelming number of species, but in the brush, it's a little bit hard to see sometimes. And so this year for Learn to Bird, we'll be at Long Acres Ranch and Brazos Bend State Park, which definitely have a lot more species, but they've also got like some nice wide open places to see them, which is good. So, but Barbara, I love that you touched on calling out every bird, because I think it is easy sometimes for anybody to get wrapped up in like, oh, I want to see something different, but it's important to document everything you're seeing. And this is like an important note for if you're using eBird too. You don't want to be like, oh, that's just a cardinal, I'm not going to count that. Oh, that's just a mockingbird, I'm not going to, I'm not worried about that. Even like all those species are going to be important to your eBird list. And you want to be able to, when you're done, mark that box that says, this is a complete list of all the birds that I was able to identify. And so Emily, I have a feeling you want to share a species with us that you're like just over the species because you've seen it so much, but it's still good practice for a beginner to like get that focus. What's your bird?
Oh no, I was thinking about multiple things here. I was thinking about, remember, oh yes, no. If I ever see when we went to Rio Grande State Park and we saw all the green jays, is that what you're talking about? I just
well, that was one of the things I was talking about. Yes.
And I think that that's something you have to decide where your appreciation value lies. And I went to some state park, and there's just hundreds of them. I mean, there was just a ton at the feeders, and to me, that almost lost as a beginner birder. I lost my appreciation for the species because there were just tons of them right there at the feeder. And I was like, I was not overwhelmingly.
But you were also living in Del Rio. So it wasn't a new species to you.
No.
Like it wasn't like for some people where they're like, oh, I've never seen them. There were a lot of them.
And there were a lot of them. But I was thinking about the time in Del Rio when we had the Rufous Cap Warbler. Is that the one that was?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we had the Mexican jay.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. I don't know. We had like 4 or 5 rare eBird alerts in like a matter of a week. And all I did was just go look for the rare eBird alert and never actually birded anything else. So I was thinking about how bad of a horrible birder I was that I just wanted to go find the rare ones that I'd never seen before. So I was laughing at how bad of a birder I was that week.
I think it's okay. Barbara might disagree with us. I think it's okay to have like a target that you're going for, but I think there's also a difference. Like as a beginner, when you're someone new, like it's go find the target, but also pay attention to everything else you see along the way.
Yeah, and the rule would be go get the target.
Yes, but I only went to find like the clay-colored sparrow. What?
Go ahead, Barbara.
The rule would be go get the target first. If you're looking for a rarity, go there first because if you have more time to find it. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I'm a county agent, so I don't have just all the time in the world to go bird for luxury.
I was gonna say this may have, in part, is a little bit different in like what you're, a birder who gets to spend the whole day looking for the rarity and maybe birding, as opposed to like your main job was not to go look for birds. So.
You need to write that.
Only on some days is that my main job.
Only on some days. Yes. Okay.
But most days, that's not even my job. It's my job to make sure everyone is fed and well cared for.
True. Very true. And you do an excellent job at that.
Well, I do a lot of, we do bird surveys at a lot of the parks that we go to for the master naturalists, and it, goes into the Texas Parks and Wildlife, I guess, put some kind of stipend on those birds, those lists that we turn in and the hours that we spend. So it's real important that we go and we do these lists. So that's why when we're out there, we're counting every bird. We're doing bird surveys. So maybe that's why I do that more too, is because I know that every bird does have to be listed, or every one we can find, of course. And another thing that I've done, this is kind of good for new birders too, is kind of that this triggered the thought. We used to, when I would lead those walks, I'd say, you cannot tell the name of the bird first. You have to give me an attribute. You have to have at least 3 attributes before you say the bird's name. So that was good.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So
I'm never going dirty with Barbara.
Emily's out for the hill country. She just needs to calm down.
Only I may go with Barbara in private, but in public, I don't know that I'm going to go birding with Barbara.
Well, let's do it.
That is that's an excellent approach. I love that, of like seeing those things that are characteristics. Like how do you know? That's what Emily and I talk about, is like making the case. How do you know that it's what you say that it is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and so many times, everybody does this. Everyone sees a bird.
I would love to. I love it.
You see a bird and you think, you're expecting a cardinal, so you say it's a cardinal.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you look closely, you go, oh wait, that's a parloxia. So you just, if you concentrate on the characteristics first and then the name next, kind of helps.
That's a good one. I think maybe for Learn to Bird, they'll have to give 3 making the case facts before they can name the bird.
Yeah, that's good.
I love that. We're totally going to incorporate that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's really good. Well, so that kind of rolls us into our next question, because I think that's a good tip that anybody can practice. But Barbara, with spring migration coming up, are there any other tips that you have for all birders to like get ready for spring and make the most of spring migration time?
First of all, if you're going to go anywhere, make reservations now. If you're going to a state park, make those reservations now, because you can't get in. There's a lot of places you won't be able to get in if you don't make those reservations now. If you're planning to just bird around your area, your home, be sure you're feeding properly. If you're going to just see what comes through your property, get your seed and feed out, your suet. And go to places, or if you're at your home, put a drip feature in. Sometimes I'll just throw a hose over a limb and let it drip, or put a sprinkler out and let that happen. And it just calls birds in. That dripping water calls birds in. So that would be one of the things. I have a kind of a funny story, I guess. I was driving down this little road in Comfort one day, and on the side of the road, I looked over there, and there was a water fountain. It's like one of the ones you buy at Walmart. It's 3-tiered, and it had a sign on it, free. So I stopped my car, threw it in the back, and took it home and set it up in my yard. And I put some pretty native stones around it. I put a lot of brush around it. And oh my gosh, it made the difference I had a bird bath, and I occasionally did the, drip type thing. But this constant running water really made a huge difference in the birds that were being brought to my yard. And as of right now, in my yard and my neighboring yards, which I can see into, I have 171 species from my area, which is a lot for my little area. But I attribute largely that to the water feature. So going back to what you asked, get a water feature, go to a water feature where you can really see more birds. So
that's okay, Emily. Why have we never thought about this before? The simplest drip setup in the world is to put a hose over a branch, running just on a drip. Like that's genius. I love that.
Well, because most of the time where I install water features, we can't just let water run like that, Maureen.
Well, that's true. That's true. There is a downside of you, depending on where you are, that even just a drip of water is costly. When we're talking about where we're working with landowners. But if you're in a backyard setting, it is nice to be able to recycle the water, but especially if it's just a short period of time and you're able to get that drip up. That's just a nice, simple way to do it. But I think the take home message that I would share here is that, like, prepare now, because it's going to take birds some time to find those resources. So you can't be like, oh, I'm seeing lots of birds come through, I should get my water feature set up. Like, no, do it now so that it's already set up when they come through. And also, it's such a good point about water, especially right now with it West being in a drought. I mean, that's one reason that it's really important to conserve water, but also that our wildlife really needs that. And so sometimes we think about, I think feeders come to the top of everybody's mind, but especially in this part of the world, waters can be more valuable.
So. And you're so right. Nothing makes me madder than when they don't find my oranges really fast.
Yeah. They don't.
It irritates me to death.
I missed what you said, Emily. What?
I said it irritates me to death when those birds don't find my oranges that I put out for them.
Yeah. As I said, in here, we don't get the kind of birds that come to oranges. Put oranges out and they just shrivel up and dry. So,
yeah,
mine do too some days.
All right, Barbara. So kind of to wrap us up a little bit, you mentioned Laredo, that you guided at the Laredo Festival of, I guess, a few weeks ago. Are there any, and of course, if you're coming to birding the hill country, everybody will get to meet you there. Is there anything else that you are, any other events that you're involved with this spring, and how do you plan to spend your spring migration?
Well, first of all, there's the TOS meeting, Texas Ornithological Society, if anyone doesn't know. It's going to be down at the Lake Jackson. GCBO is sponsoring it. That should be a great, spring migration at the coast is always fabulous. So that will be a good thing, and I'm planning on that. Shortly after that, I'm planning a trip to Ohio to the biggest week. So that's going to be part of my spring plans. And then right after that, I'm going to Alaska for a month.
Ooh, that's going to be so cool. Are you doing like a bunch of places in Alaska or along the coast? Or?
Well, a bunch of places. Beth McBroom and I are going up for the first 2 weeks together. And then and we're doing one tour out to the Pribilofs, and then we're going to do Nome and some down in the Seward area, Kenai Peninsula. And then she's going to go home, and I will do Denali, more Nome again, down into the Seward Peninsula, and do some pelagic trips out there. So it's going to be awesome. I used to live there, so this is like my going back. When I lived there, I was a wildflower person, a flower child. I was a flower child. Now I'm a bird girl. Now I want to go back and get all those birds that I just looked at and said, oh, yes, there's a woodpecker, or, oh, there's a chickadee. Now I want to go, that is a chestnut-backed chickadee. So anyway, that's my closure for Alaska.
That's so cool. I am totally jealous. And it's crazy when you think about like places that you went before you were a birder and species that you may not have seen. So when I was a kid, my parents took us to Alaska, and we got to see a snowy owl when we were we went all the way up to Prudhoe Bay, so like way far up on the north slope. Yeah. And that was really cool. And that's a species that even as a kid I appreciated. But it's just interesting because I'm like, what else did we see that we just, didn't know about? Or even just growing up in Colorado, I'm like, I wonder what things I saw. I mean, we'd see stuff in our backyard, and there's species that I know we got, but you're always like, what else was there that I didn't realize? So that's super cool to get to do.
I was just cleaning out some of the stuff from my mother's house and some of the stuff from my house that I'm trying to simplify. And I found pictures of when I lived in Alaska, some slides. And I put them on my scanner and ran them through, and I could see them on my computer. And dadgum, I got pictures of willow ptarmigan and pictures of some of these birds. And I was like, yes, I can add them to my Alaska list because I do have proof.
That's cool. Ptarmigan are a species that are special to me, and that's something we did recognize as something cool growing up, and we'd see them in the high altitudes of Colorado. But that's so cool. So you had documentation. You were like, I know that this is on the list because I got a picture of it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Okay, I have one last question for her.
If you have a closing thought, go for it.
I have one last question for her. As we revert back to the Birding Bucket List podcast, where we shared what was on our if we could do anything birding bucket list related, Barbara, what would you do?
It'd be Alaska. You're
checking your birding bucket list off.
Yep, I am.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Emily, any other closing thoughts?
The only closing thought I have is that I still am so mad at you for not letting me dress up like a crane to announce the upcoming Close with Cranes virtual birding seminar that's happening on March 3rd. Registration is open, and would have been such a cool cup chat if I got to dress up as a crane and come on and announce it. But no, we couldn't buy a crane suit just for one cup chat.
So hold on for a second, because that was a perfect segue into what our cup chat is going to be next week. And next week, Dr. Tanya Hamayan from Texas Parks and Wildlife Department is going to be joining us to talk about the Texas Whooper Watch, kind of priming us for the fact that then the crane seminar will be the next day. So I don't know, maybe you should dress up as a crane and see if she counts you. Maybe see if it's convincing enough that Tanya wants to mark you off on her list.
Are you going to buy me a crane suit?
I didn't say I was going to buy you a crane suit. I think you have to buy your own crane suit.
Are we need to make it like homemade crane suit? Or I actually need to buy a crane suit.
I don't know. It depends on your sewing skills. Did you bring your sewing machine to Stock Show with you?
I did not. And I am fresh out of time to sew a crane suit.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. If anybody has sewing skills that they want to donate to the cause, please let us know. And Emily would love to have a whooping crane suit. If you have no idea what we're talking about, come to the crane seminar, because I think we'll probably talk about that a little bit. And we can talk about why people dress up like whooping cranes. So, Barbara, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are so excited to get back out in the field for birding in the hill country. We're so excited to have you be our birding buddy for birding in the hill country. And we just hope everybody has a great week, and stay warm today, but hopefully get out and see some birds too.
We'll do that.
All right. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.